Hello and welcome to ABW. I was about to say ABW Live. I guess we are live, so yeah, that counts. Your normal podcast. I'm sort of the host this week. We're not really going to have a host. We're just going to chat nonsense as usual. Tonight I'm joined by, of Goonisphere fame, Mr. Stokes. How are you?
Buenos dias, senor. Very good indeed. Happy to be here.
I'm really glad you translated that for me because I'm terrible with language. Seriously. I'm sure that's what he actually said. He didn't call me a twat or anything. Speaking of twats, I'm also joined by Danny.
You cheeky monkey. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I've missed you. It's been a while.
It's you're such a hard-working man. You've broken the Chris Carpenter record of 5 consecutive no-shows. I mean, Chris is devastated. He worked really hard at that.
Weirdly, it was actually, I'm going to blame Stokes for this. I was in Birmingham last week, so it's his fault. I'm going to claim that he tied me up in his basement, and that's why I was so late.
I suppose I am fairly close to Birmingham, so yeah, it could have happened.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes, it did happen. Maybe I was momentarily out of my body.
It's the quantum physics things. You can be in 2 places at once, right? On the quantum level, you were kidnapped.
In one place, I was having a biscuit, and the next place, I was in a basement tying you up.
Yeah. That's how much we've got to talk about tonight and what's been going on in the world of Arsenal. No, that's not true at all. There's actually quite a bit to talk about. Do we want to talk about the postponement thing and all the bollocks with the league and everyone going mental, all the journalists, and how everyone now hates Arsenal again? Does it mean are we officially back, Danny? Are the Arsenal back now that everyone hates us?
I think it is, because we saw that everyone was having a bitch and a whine about us, and then Burnley go and cancel their 5th game of the season, and everyone goes, oh, well, Burnley have just gone and sold their main striker. Oh, well, they're selling players, so they've got more players out, and they've not bought anybody. But that's Burnley, isn't it? And no one really cares. And then we've done one. In fact, we've turned up for one when we had hardly any players, and managed to get a 0-0 at Anfield. And I think that's just made a lot of people, they hate us. I think Arsenal fans should take great joy at the fact that when everyone hates us, it's because we're doing well. Under peak Wenger, that decade of dismay, no one picked on us because no one cared because we were rubbish.
The worst part of that is we were getting sympathy from people like Alex Ferguson. That's when you know you've become a threat to no one.
And Adrian Durham's been nice about us.
That is disappointing. I felt like, I don't know, I felt sort of rejuvenated this week. It was like, well, this feels like being an Arsenal fan of sort of 10, 15 years ago. Like, people are talking about us this way because we're in contention to maybe win a trophy and be in the shout for top 4 and things like that again. And, other clubs going, oh, typical Arsenal cheating, getting away with things or getting referee decisions and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, oh, I forgot this like directed hatred that I feel towards myself and my club. It brings me joy. It's bizarre. It's a really weird feeling.
It is very odd. I did have a list here of all the games that have. Oh, we go. I'm just going to upload this. Of all the games so far, and that's agents' fees. I think I've done the wrong one. Yeah, well, it looked
agent
like
fees. I mean, there's plenty of questions about what kind of agent that's in relation to.
It was a list of all the games that have been. Oh, here we go. They look similar. In fact, there you go. There's the agents' fees. If anybody cares, Arsenal 16 million. That's ridiculous. We're not talking about that. It's there. I mean, this was up and before the Burnley one. All those games called off. Now, how many of these, John, were Arsenal's fault?
0. Even though we are involved in one, it was Wolves who asked to postpone the game. When was that? That was just after Christmas, right? Before New Year?
Yeah, and
Chelsea. It was like 28, something like that, wasn't it?
With the Chelsea ones postponed because they're off to play the European World Super Cup thing, whatever that nonsense that's called, and the Liverpool one postponed because they had a 1,000,000,000,000 odds, didn't they?
Something ridiculous. I don't know what the odds were, but yeah, it was absurd. The number of false positives that they said they had. I will, for balance sake, not that we do much balanced on here. It's normally pretty biased being an Arsenal podcast. I do think the rules are fucking stupid, to be perfectly honest. Like, last season, it was obviously if players had COVID or you had an X number of players with COVID, then you could postpone a game, which was fine because there was nothing you could do about that. It was just going around everywhere, and the clubs really couldn't make any or put anything in place or measures for it. They did as much as they could, I guess. But the fact they expanded it this season to include injuries, which I do get a little bit because of the amount of games that players are being asked to play now in like this season and last season, you've got an increased chance of injury. But then adding in like AFCON and suspensions and everything else, it makes no sense whatsoever. So, I mean, I've got no problem with Arsenal asking for it to be postponed. I mean, there's a Spurs guy I work with at work, and he was like furious about it. He was really, really angry about it. He's going, "Oh, your club and your team's a disgrace, and you're only doing it because Xhaka got himself sent off, and now you've loaned out Balogun and Maitland-Niles and all these guys." And I was like, "It's in the rules." And then I said to him, "Well, what about Spurs? They had 4 games cancelled." He said, "We only postponed the Rennes one, and we got kicked out of the competition. We're going to take it to court and all this other bollocks." I was like, just everyone seems so bitter about it, but it's the fact the media immediately jumped on Arsenal doing it and just like went ham on us rather than any other club. I think Burnley have had the most games postponed. I think they've got like 6 games or something stupid in hand.
I was looking at the Premier League. Burnley have got 6 games in hand on Chelsea.
Yeah. It's bizarre. And
if they win them, they go mid-table.
Yeah, I feel a little... I do have one tiny little bit of like feeling for Burnley in the fact that Chris Wood wasn't sold as much as his buyout clause, which the fact that Chris Wood has a buyout clause is a bizarre thing to me. I can't imagine that ever... At what point did Chris Wood or his agent think he was good enough a player that he needed a buyout clause in his contract?
That buyout clause is then saying, yeah, fine, 20 million, no one's going to pay that.
Yeah, no one's going to come in and pay that. But
it's almost like in Spain where they go, it's £1 billion. I think they've signed a player that they've put a 1 billion release clause on it.
Yeah, I think it's that 18-year-old kid, isn't it, who was like amazing at the Euros. I think it's something stupid like that. $1 billion.
Oh, at Barcelona, is it Gavi?
No.
Gavi.
Is it Gavi? I can't remember his name. Yeah. I just know that he looks like a 12-year-old, and it makes me feel very, very old.
Don't.
But yeah, the rules to me don't make any sense. I don't get them. I don't think they should have been put in place the way they were. But the fact is, they're there. So why, as a club, would you not try and maximise your opportunities to win games?
It's very much selective outrage, isn't it? I mean, the problem isn't that Arsenal applied for a postponement, and the problem is they got an idiotic set of rules that enables teams to do so. I mean, no one cared when any of the other ones were doing it. And the minute Arsenal put in a request that's perfectly valid and they're perfectly entitled to do, as soon as they put that in, then it's like they've taken a shit in a centre circle and asked someone to come and verify it. It's just madness. It's just... half of it, I think, is this, to an extent, there's a genuine sort of animosity towards Arsenal from certain pundits, and especially certain pundits who've been made to look a bit stupid by said Arsenal players of the past. So I always think that sort of plays, like, especially Carragher and Neville, who've been, in their own way, both have been mugged off by Arsenal's players plenty of times. You can see that there's a degree of sort of disdain that both of them hold. I mean, they do their best to be impartial, but you can, it's always there lying underneath the surface. And the other part of it was just, it's sensationalism, isn't it? People, and especially if you're looking at products like TalkSport or anything else that's, has a required level of interaction and clicks that they've got to have on a monthly basis in order for their sponsors to stay involved, then they very, very purposely put forward faux outrage and sort of sensationalist nonsense like that just to attract people. There's a very good example of what I mean the other day where they had, I'm sure you guys would have seen it, where they had a caller on.
Oh, God,
an Arsenal fan.
Yeah.
And this caller was saying that Dennis Bergkamp was overrated. I will bet every last penny that I have that guy was not an Arsenal fan. It was some spotty fucking intern in the TalkSport offices where they said, phone in and do this because it will make people interact with what we're saying.
Yeah.
It's just bullshit.
I mean, and the funniest thing on that video is that Andy Goldstein, I think, was one of the guys who was in the studio at the time. And he's laughing almost to the point of, like, this can't be serious. Like, this can't be an actual Arsenal fan.
If it isn't a plan, then it's somebody phoning up and saying a load of nonsense just to get the attention that will come with it.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Because I reckon if you actually go out and ask your average, rational, well thought out football fan what they think of the postponements, and they would say the rules are stupid.
Yeah.
But the teams, adhering to the rules and the teams making requests in the lines of the rules are doing nothing wrong. Like Michael Richards said, Arsenal have done nothing wrong. It's just easy to sort of jump on that angry bandwagon.
Yeah, and it's got this, for me, it's got this really weird situation now of, because of the sort of obvious tribalism in football. Like the Spurs fan at work, I get on with him fine and stuff. And when we talk about football, obviously there's banter back and forth and he always loses because, they haven't got any trophies. But we always wind each other up about certain things. But it really irritated him. And I was like speaking to like a Liverpool fan and West Ham and stuff. And they were sort of like, I think it's kind of nonsense and you probably shouldn't have been allowed to have the game off. But the whole thing's rubbish. And obviously this is Spurs, he's going to dislike Arsenal more. But I think when there's this, this game's supposed to go ahead. And if you were of the rival club, whether it's Spurs or whoever, if you see an opportunity to take on a weakened Arsenal team and get a result, that's huge for you, as a club. And I'm sure that fans of Watford and Burnley and Leicester and stuff for games they've had cancelled, they've probably also gone about, they're probably talking about it in the same way that we are, that if it's them who've cancelled it, they'll be like, yeah, this is fine, this is helping us out. But if it's one of their games and the opponent's cancelled it, and they had a chance to beat the opponent because of them having a weakened squad, they'll be frustrated and annoyed by it. And now you've got this sort of weird thing where fans are cheering when a game gets cancelled. Like, you're not just a football fan anymore. You're actively going, oh, I hope this game gets cancelled because this will piss off the other, the opposition fans. It's a really bizarre situation to be in.
It is a bit weird, but they'll all do it. But I agree with you, John, that it should be. They should say from the 1st of February, you play the game. If there's been a big thing made of Bayern Munich, their entire bench of, I think, 10 or 11 players or however many it was, there was not a single player on the bench who had ever made a Bundesliga start. I don't know if it's appearances or starts. So do it. I don't care. I'd like to see some of them because it swings and roundabouts. We may well have had the advantage when it comes to playing Liverpool in the League Cup, because Liverpool apparently would have had all those players out, but then we'd have lost the advantage against Spurs because we had no midfield. So it's just like VAR and red cards and all that lot. It evens itself out over the season, but they should say 1st of February, games have been played no matter what. Otherwise, where are Burnley? Do you agree, James?
I do.
Yeah, where are Burnley going to be able to fit in those 6 games? Not just in their own schedule, but if I go and have a look at, I don't know who the Burnley 6 games are against. We've got them. If I go and click on Burnley, and
we've got them over the weekend, haven't we, Burnley?
It will, if the game happens, yeah.
The games that have been suspended for them was... no, they've not done them. They've not postponed. They've just moved them to or deleted them from it. But it's probably not going to be that hard for Burnley to be able to play all those extra 6 games in hand. But it's going to be the teams they're playing against that are going to have to fit those in. And if you're playing a team that is doing in the FA Cup, or if it's one of the ones like Chelsea have got to the League Cup final, us and Liverpool, and they're playing in Europe as well, you can't be playing any more than 3 games a week at the most if you're doing, I suppose you can do a Saturday, a Tuesday, a Friday, and then you can't do that week after week.
No, so I mean, it's like us at the moment. We've got, 2 games in February right now? I don't know, obviously, we're out of the FA Cup, but at the moment, we've got 2 matches. That's so there's like a big window there where we can fit other games in. And the problem comes with, depending on who your postponed games are against, trying to squeeze those in around their own fixtures. And they've got the added headache now. The Premier League have put themselves in this position of they're trying to they really wanted to wrap this league season up early because of the World Cup in the winter.
In November, December. They want to start the league early.
Yeah, so they want to start the league early. So they've shot themselves in the foot here. I think the issue they've got now is that because the horse has bolted, so to speak, I do agree. I think they should just go back to the rules of it's COVID cases, nothing else, basically. If you've got injuries, I'm sorry, that's just unlucky. That happens every season. Every team has to deal with injuries. If you haven't got a big enough squad or you haven't got enough depth in a certain position, that's bad squad management. But there's going to be so many teams now that if they flip the rules back to just COVID, that are going to fight against it, you're going to have to get every single, I think is it 14 or 16 clubs or something like that, have to agree to pass any regulations to do with the Premier League. So they've really fucked themselves over, like big time. I don't know how they're going to get out of it, to be honest. And I think the issue in terms of the players is I do think it's going to end up causing player welfare issues in terms of their fitness and the strain they're putting on them, because the amount of games they're going to have to squeeze in, they're going to get more and more injuries. And if you put players through that sort of strain continuously, those injuries get more severe and get to the point where they can be career-threatening. And they're not doing anything to help the players, really.
I think they're talking in the chat. Arf Emstow is saying he's talking about we are a disgrace for loaning out players during the transfer window. I'm not sure if he's being ironic there, but there has been some...
That's not Fenny, is it, surely?
Who's he replying? Oh, he's replying. Don1 said, Arsenal on the back pages every newspaper. According to them, we are cheats for getting games postponed. Yeah, I thought he's just he's a bit of tongue-in-cheek. But you got to worry about the transfer system, though, haven't we? The way that we've let Mari's gone out on loan. You know, we've got about 27 players out on loan. I'm sure I was updating our web. People, if you want to know all the latest transfer information of actual done deals, go to bergkamp.wonderland.co.uk.com, and then we've got 22 players out on loan. 17 players have left the club since the season has began. So that's 39 players that have left the club, and only 7 have come in. One of which was Mika Birith, who's only 18. But also looking at that, do you know we've saved £925,170 a week on wages because of the number of players that have gone. I mean, Pablo Mari's gone to Udinese. Was going. He's on 85 grand a week. They're not paying 85 grand a week.
No, it's the same as Kolasinac at Marseille, isn't it? That was we're paying him off and all that sort of thing. I think for the sort of the players that are first team or near the first team, the majority of them weren't like. Pablo Mari played, I think he's appeared twice all season, maybe, in the league. He's been on the bench 2-3 times, if that. So he was never in the plans for the squad this year anyway. I think Arteta would probably have rather have given the time to someone from the academy, like coming through.
He's played 270 minutes in all competitions, three appearances.
And to be fair, a lot of that was down to the fact we had so many people out at the start of the season, wasn't it? And because of COVID. So I don't think you can really count Marie, although he's listed as a first-team player. Balogun, again, played at the start of the season because we had no one at all, but otherwise wouldn't have realistically been playing this season. I think it's the only reason why he didn't go out on loan at the start of the season was because of the injuries we had. Otherwise, he probably would have been loaned out then.
A bit on that. Kevin Campbell said the way they do it in football when you're making your way through, if you're a young player, they want 6 months of you hanging out with the first team, getting used to first team football, but not actually playing. And then they send you out after 6 months on loan. And that's exactly what happened with Balogun. So Kev Campbell was right with that. Yeah. That was on the Highbury squad. I heard that.
I think the one question mark of all the players that were sent out was probably Maitland-Niles. Like, I think it's pretty clear his future obviously isn't at Arsenal. That seems pretty apparent, I think, to most people. But there was definitely a question mark about whether we could have waited one more game day before we sent him. Just, to put him in for the FA Cup game or something like that. And maybe, I'm not saying that would make the result any difference because I thought everyone was pretty useless that day. Probably,
but he could have played in midfield. He would have been pretty decent.
Yeah.
It was pretty evident that Patino wasn't really ready to step up to it.
No, not at all. So I think that's the one question mark in terms of the loans out we've made. But you can't. I don't think you can punish a club for making transfers either. Again, it's the Premier League's fault. They've got themselves in this weird situation where it looks like, on the face of it, it looks very bad for Arsenal to say we don't have enough players to, get a squad together, and then 2 players immediately go out on loan. It's like, well, hang on a minute, maybe that's why you haven't got enough players. But we're not the only team that's done it.
And we don't know whether we've had a deal agreed with a player with another club and gone, right, we're going to get this Arthur Mello in. Or AMN, you can go out on loan now. And then Juve have gone, actually, there's a little snag here. We can't quite do it. And you go, well, I've just let the bloke go. Things like that are bound to happen.
Yeah. So again, I think we all agree that the rules are just really badly written and haven't been thought out at all. But I don't have any problem with what Arsenal have done, and equally, I don't have all of the other clubs who've asked for postponements. I don't have a problem with them either. The only one that is a little bit iffy, and this might sound a bit conspiracy, is the Liverpool one, just because of the number of false positives. I mean, obviously, it is possible to have that. We've had some people at work who've had false positives in the office, but obviously not that number or whatever the odds are to get them all on one day. So that's the only one to me that's a bit questionable. The outrage for me and stuff, I've just found it hilarious, honestly. And the fact that Mika Richards just sat there so calmly in the Sky Studio was just like, Arsenal haven't done anything wrong, and all the other people just like, oh, hang on a minute, you work for Sky, you're supposed to, keep promoting us. We want the football on the TV so we can make our money. If that was Arsenal against, I don't know, Burnley, for example, and even if it wasn't Sky, I don't think there's going to be anywhere near as much outrage, because other than Arsenal and Burnley fans, no one else is going to watch that game. Arsenal Spurs is a bit different. Rival fans will watch that and go, I don't particularly like either of these teams. Hopefully they'll kick the shit out of each other and I can enjoy that, So I don't like Chelsea or Tottenham, but I always watch the game because they kick lumps out of each other and it's funny.
It's What is that above my head?
That's an aged picture of Dennis Bergkamp with you should move your camera to your left a bit, then you'd be in the middle of your shot. All we need behind you now is little things saying 5'9", 5'10", 6 foot.
It does look like that, but this is the only place in the house I can really do it. I'm sat downstairs in the dining room. It's just a plain white wall behind me.
There's enough Arsenal podcasters with criminal photos
up here.
Oh, your Lego people
of me, my wife, and my little boy up there.
You're a chef on that, aren't you?
Yeah.
Didn't she cut your head off the other day?
I had Lego Deadpool cut my head off.
Nice.
Living the life. Spurs are losing 1-0 to Leicester City at the moment. That's magnificent news for us.
Game in hand FC are losing, are they?
Yeah, well, they've got all those games down. They're going to be fighting for the title with all their Steph says it's nice to see you back on, John.
Oh, thank you very much.
We all have a WhatsApp group. I think there's 11 of us in the ABW one. Every day, everyone talks, apart from maybe Chris, because he's busy being a hipster. But all of us talk. Even Jock. Jock's very busy, so we are all. No one's falling out of anybody. Just that life is busy at the moment for a lot of people.
Chris pipes up if things are going wrong, so he can moan about Arteta, or to tell us how good Guendouzi is.
Yeah, so we've not heard from him since November. So we've. Should we talk about the Liverpool game, the upcoming one tomorrow night? The post game is going to be me, Femster, and one other, as usual. I've had 2 replies from people asking if anyone's going to do the shows tomorrow.
I'd do it, but I wouldn't be back on time tomorrow night. I got an important dining thing on tomorrow night.
We don't want to wear you out. You get pod fever. You've done 2 in a row.
I don't mind. I'm quite happy to do more.
It's good. It's nice to have you on.
I would be on, but I'm going to be furiously masturbating, looking at Jurgen Klopp's miserable face after we beat them.
And me too, but I just thought I'd make an excuse.
I've actually got trousers on today. You'll be glad to hear, because it's so bloody cold. I put them on. Are we, James? Are you confident that we're going to beat them tomorrow? Because I am.
Do you know what? I mean, I'm erring for once on a side of optimism and confidence, and I think it's the Arsenal thing to do. I think we'll really put in a good performance, and I think we can beat Liverpool. I mean, without Salah and Mane, their attack is easily 75% worse off. So there's a part of me that thinks that we've got the crowd behind us. There's going to be a good atmosphere in the stadium. I think that we're going to. I don't want to be. I hate being too sort of confident about we're going to win, because I find that always comes and bites you on the ass. I always err on the side of being the downbeat, miserly sort of voice of discontent and sorrow in the background that doesn't think we'll do anything and just sits there and hopes that we will. But I do have a good feeling about it. But that said, I mean, it's equally as plausible that Liverpool could win. I mean, there's a part thinks that often when you've got the burden or the weight of expectation, and I find that often that could favour the away team.
Look at this, James. Liam Greyhurst. All depends if Xhaka has money on us winning.
Oh, let's hope he doesn't. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I reckon we can win. I reckon I'm not going to tie myself to any predictions but I'm quietly confident. I'm quietly happy that we actually can beat them tomorrow night. You take Salah and Mane out of that team, and they are infinitely beatable.
Yeah, it's very different team, isn't it?
Egypt are 1-0 up at the moment, and it looks like that means they'll finish second in their group.
I suppose a lot will depend on which of our players are back, because Xhaka won't be, will he?
Oh no, he's banned.
So you're looking at probably Sambi and another, which I wouldn't be surprised if it's Ben White, because you think especially if Tomiyasu's back, then you could play Holding, Gabriel, and Tomiyasu, and that's a fairly safe back four. Of the players that we've got, he's about the only one I think can make that transition to a midfielder and be good there. It definitely won't be Patino. I'd be very surprised if it's Patino.
How about Femster says Sambi and Odegaard? Odegaard should be back from his illness.
The problem you have with Odegaard there, it's the same problem you had when he played there with Sambi, or Patino played there. If they're playing two, and I think they should against Liverpool, because Liverpool, if we play Sambi as one holder, Liverpool will walk all over us in midfield. So they need to play two there. And Odegaard's natural predilection is to go forward. So even if he's sort of drilled to stay back, he's going to want to instinctively go forward. And that's going to leave Sambi isolated. And I think you look at Liverpool, they win and lose games by how good they are at pressing and how effective and combative their midfield is. And if we put one against that, we will struggle.
Yeah, there was some pictures today that got deleted very quickly. I don't think they were supposed to be posted. And Saka, Tierney and Odegaard were all in the training session. So you would assume that means they're all fit and available for tomorrow. I do tend to agree with James. The one thing I will say is the way to beat Liverpool is you either have to get them to press and then go long. And when you've got Ramsdale on goal, you do have that option, because I know in the first leg his passing was not there at all. But if he's on song, then the balls he can hit to Martinelli and Saka, because they will just leave that much space, Liverpool. Just basically ignore their midfield and completely bypass it. But if you do put Odegaard in there and you do try and play out from the back the way we do, if they can break the lines of the front three pushing and get it into Odegaard, his ability to spin on the ball and then release one of the wide men is another way to score. I think a big thing about it as well will be the atmosphere. And I just think everything that's happened, this week, the fact the first leg of the game got postponed by Liverpool, the general animosity between Arsenal and Liverpool fans anyway, the things Klopp said, the way Arteta spoke today in his press conference, we'll fight tooth and nail for this club, and some teams come out and talk about the rules in the FA and the Premier League. We've never questioned any team postponing a game and anything. But it just gets the fans more on side, and to be fair, the fans home and away have been great all season. And I know people sort of go on about it sometimes, but the whole 12th man thing does make a huge difference.
That's why Liverpool are so good at Anfield.
Yeah, it is.
When they get that crowd rolled up, they're a nightmare to play against. Yeah,
I mean, Henry said it, didn't he? He said it, like his favourite away ground was Anfield, just because the atmosphere was incredible. And that's a guy who's played all over the world in the biggest stadiums ever. So, I do think the crowd will play a big part in it. The worry is the midfield, because although Xhaka can be a liability, obviously, and I'm sure we'll bring on his possible ill doings.
It never ends at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing. There's never a quiet news day as an Arsenal fan. It's great, and there's always something to talk about. I don't know what you do. Odegaard would seem like is the obvious sort of choice. If Smith Rowe's available, then maybe you can play him there.
If you had to pick between Smith Rowe and Odegaard, it'd be Smith Rowe to play there, in my opinion.
I think
more physically built for that kind of role.
Yeah, I do think he's better at it, and also I think that the way he drives with the ball. The fact he would be a bit deeper in the pitch, I actually think would benefit him. Almost in the way that they started putting like wingers at fullback and stuff, so they had more room to run. But I assume the rest of the team would be Saka, Martinelli, and then the question is depending on who's available, it will be Lacazette up front, or if Smith Rowe's not available, Odegaard will be midfield, and then Lacazette 10 and Nketiah, I guess, as the forward maybe.
You would assume so, wouldn't you?
Yeah, would be my guess for it, and then the back four. Yeah, if Tomiyasu is available, it just goes straight back in at right back, doesn't he? I'm not against putting Ben White in midfield, but also there's
a part of me that wonders whether or not Arteta, if we're really short in midfield, will go with 5 at the back. So you can essentially play with the spare man. When you got the spare man as someone who's as good in possession as White is, I can see the benefits to playing, and it makes us more solid. I think if we go into the game with a one pivot of Sambi, who, as great as he is not that most experienced, especially in high pressure fixtures like a semi-final where it's whoever wins. I wouldn't be surprised if we've got the first choice back four and Holding available. I wouldn't be surprised if he went like that, just because you can play White that little bit more ahead of the two, and you don't lose anything in terms of distribution from the back.
Yeah, and I think the other thing with that is that even if he wanted to, I mean, I assume Cedric is injured and never wears an Arsenal shirt again. I really hope he is injured. But Tomiyasu as well is another guy who's really good with his distribution on the ball, right or left foot. So he could even tuck in as a third centre back if you wanted to do that. I think there's more options with the back four than there is anywhere else on the pitch, or back four or back 5.
As I said, that's where my concern lies, that if we line up similarly to how we did against Forest, and we line up like that against a team as good as Liverpool, and Liverpool probably wouldn't, I wouldn't be surprised if they go there with a mindset of not high pressing and let us come onto them and try and pick us off.
Yeah.
Because they're equally as good at both.
Yeah. I can't see Arteta really going with a single pivot. I think the Forest game was him saying you should be good enough to play with a single pivot and 2 8s essentially to beat them. And technically, they should. I mean, Patino, he's a young kid, so you sort of give him a pass. I think it was more down to the players, cocking up. And Arteta should have changed things earlier, to be fair, but they had enough to win that game. But I don't think you can do that against Liverpool. You've got to play the double pivot.
Well, in the injury table, it says Thomas Partey. This was a quote from today. They played last night. It was a huge disappointment for Thomas. He's out now, so he needs to be fully focused and involved with Arsenal as soon as possible. Potential return date the 23rd. And Granit Xhaka suspended. Tomiyasu, calf shin heel injury. Late fitness test for tomorrow, 50% chance. And then Smith Rowe, groin, hip, pelvic injury. That quote from there is ages old. And it says late fitness test for tomorrow, 50%. Odegaard, COVID, late fitness test for tomorrow. Suarez, 25% chance, late fitness test. Saka, 50% chance tomorrow. He felt something in the last minute. He was really fatigued, and I don't know. He's a young boy, and he recovers pretty quickly. He's played a lot of minutes this month. He's 50%. Calum Chambers has got a knock, late fitness test, 25%. And then we got the other rest of them that are all at the AFCON. We've got 5 players at the AFCON because Rekic, or whatever you say his name. Centre back.
I forgot about
that. Kane scored.
Makes you realise just how down to the bare bones we actually are.
Yeah, I could see someone like Aziz, who's been called back from his loan, being on the bench tomorrow. Players like that. It is really central midfield is the area we're short. I read today that Partey might even be back for the Burnley game. Like they want to try and get him back in for that quickly.
Because Liverpool won't have Naby Keita, will they? They'll still have Fabinho, Milner, Oxlade-Chamberlain,
Henderson,
Minamino.
Yeah.
Thiago's injured, isn't he?
Yes, he is at the moment. Yeah.
But they'll still have enough to put a bloody good midfield out there, won't they?
Yeah, definitely. So it's not going to be an easy game, but I think we've got enough. And I think the way they played in that first leg down to 10 men, and the fact they still created chances, I think is the big thing. Like realistically, think about it, we had better chances to get to score than Liverpool did in that game, despite being with 10 men. I think that will give the players the confidence that, you know, they're not going to go out there and get scared, sort of in the way they did, was it the Man United game, where they almost seemed like they were playing against the badge rather than the players. I don't really see that happening against Liverpool. Equally, to be fair, Liverpool didn't play at their best level. I know it wasn't their best team, but they could have played better themselves as well. So I do expect them to be better for the game tomorrow as well.
First team this season to go to Anfield and keep a clean sheet, which is absolutely amazing. When was the last time you saw a team like the end of the Man City game and the end of the Liverpool game where all of our players are laying on the floor absolutely knackered? It looks like they've just done...
On the subject of trivia, am I right in saying Arsenal are also the last team to go to Anfield and score 4, 5 and 6?
Arshavin and Julio Batista, isn't it? And then 5-5 in the League Cup.
Yeah, I think we are. Yeah. I think I do think the Arsenal Liverpool fixture is the one with the most goals in Premier League history.
Yeah,
I think something stupid like that.
Yeah. But them giving it all and laying down on the pitch after a game, it's like they've just done an FA Cup final with extra time and penalties and then lost on penalties. Yeah. Both of those games, they're laying on the floor. I've never seen Arsenal players give that much. Absolutely astounding. And the Liverpool, no matter what they could do, they couldn't break us down. And I was on Same Old Arsenal last night, and I was saying, if you saw the attacking performance against Man City, where, I mean, how many times has Pep come out and gone, they were the better team? I don't think he almost never says that. Mm. And then the defensive performance against Liverpool just shows we've got it all. We are absolutely just need to get that run of everybody being fit and everything working out. And then
once you get the sort of naivety of youth and the sort of inexperience out of the way, if they galvanise as a team, then there is a bright future ahead.
Yeah, and I think you're still going to get this season and even into next season, you're going to get some weird fixtures where you go, how did we lose that game? It will just be young players. Hopefully it will just be down to the fact that it's young players and generally an experienced team rather than the experienced players letting the younger players down, as has been the case in a few games this season. And that will still happen, but I have zero problem with that because everything is going in the right direction. And it's also about, having a bit more depth in the squad in certain areas. Because as we've said 100 times already, we're so light in midfield. So, yeah.
7 people watching. Is that on Twitter or on YouTube?
On YouTube we've got 38. On Twitch we've got 7 people. I bet, John, you're not even logged in, are you, to try and stat pad that?
Oh God, I'm not stat padding. I'll Twitch. I'm so bad. I'm going to do a sneaky click over on this window and do that while someone else talks quickly.
But like you were saying, John, I think that's a good point that soon we are going to lose games. And if we go out tomorrow night and we lose 5-0 at home and we get knocked out of the cup, doesn't matter because they're a young team and they're learning. We haven't got all of our best players. And these things are going to happen, aren't they, James? You just have to make... But there again, you'll have the same doom merchants, the same clickbait muppets that are going to be out there going, that's it, Arteta out, get them out. It's a learning process.
I mean, I got to be honest with you. At the beginning of the season, I was probably I was one of those people that was sort of, has Arteta done enough to really, justify his position as Arsenal manager? And at the time, I didn't think so. Now, I have a completely different opinion. Now, I think for the first time in his tenure as Arsenal manager, you can really see what he's trying to do. And most importantly for me, I think I might have said the same thing when I was on last, so I will say it again, that it's a team you can get behind. I'm more than happy to watch young kids with potential make mistakes than I am Willian on 150 grand a week being a useless fucking idiot. I think you can get behind it because they're a likable group. They're all pushing in the right direction, and there's nothing not to like. So I think with the fact the team's likable and the team all seem to be behind the manager as well. It's not like when Emery was there, there was very much vibes of some players really don't like him or don't understand him or
whatever it was.
I mean, there is an extent to which you could argue that there has been dissent in the ranks with Arteta, but he has handled that and by means of whether you think it's right or wrong. I happen to think it's right, but he's done the right thing and just getting fucking rid of them.
Yeah.
He likes to, as brilliant as Ozil was for us, he was also during the latter part of his time here just a pain in the ass. I don't think it's any coincidence that 2, if you want to include Ljungberg, 3 managers wanted him out the door. Yeah. I think what Arteta's done really well is he's tried to instill this sort of, as he put it, like non-negotiables that the players have. And when they step out of line, irrespective of how they stand in the perception of the fans and the players, and whether it's like someone like Aubameyang, who's, a lot of people hold in very high esteem, and, rightfully so. He's been a brilliant player for Arsenal up until recently. But if he steps out of line and he doesn't, follow the procedures that have been put in place, then he should be disciplined just like anyone else. And I think he's absolutely right to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing with that could have been something that went horribly wrong. Essentially kicking the captain out of the team, stripping him.
I mean, it's ballsy.
It's very ballsy, but all the players went, no, yep, this is what the boss said. And
which, makes me think that, probably they know Aubameyang's not been doing what he should be doing.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then they're obviously going, no, these are the manager's rules, and this is, if you're an Arsenal player, this is the way you got to behave. And they're obviously getting on board with that and respecting it. So, for me, it's all going in the right direction.
So if you had to go and do a Xhaka and Xhaka's mate and put some money on it, are you with me then going, I think we're going to win, maybe 1-0, 2-1. It's going to be close, but I think we're going to win. And then we get to the final. And if Tommy Tickles hasn't been sacked yet, we'll beat Chelsea in the final. Or am I being too confident?
I would be more confident that we can win this semi than we would Chelsea. If this was full strength Liverpool, that'd be the other way around.
Weirdly, I'm the other. I actually would fancy us more against Chelsea right now than Liverpool. I just think Chelsea are in a little bit of confusion, and there is
I think if this was Liverpool,
dissension there that happens at Chelsea all the time.
If this was Liverpool with Mane and Salah up front, then I wouldn't be anywhere near as confident.
No, it's a very different prospect. And then you're like praying Tomiyasu's fully fit, Tierney's fully fit. You really want Partey back as well. And and we just haven't obviously got all those players.
I'm pretty sure Danny's just had a stroke, by the way.
It's either that or no. Oh, he's talking to a cam girl on the phone. Danny's being very professional, listeners and viewers.
I think it's time that everyone learned that this is his secondary source of financial income, where he's essentially just like a sex line.
A sexy Frank ringing up to see if I was all right.
So people like you've got a penchant for hairy, heavy-set gentlemen. They just call in and you say the occasional fruity sentence to him.
That was Jock, actually. He owes me a fiver for that. How does he feel about that? Oh, he's happy. Oh, no, he's sad.
No, I think he's just shrunk into the sidelines because now everyone knows his dirty secrets.
Yeah. Speaking of dirty secrets or possible dirty secrets, should we talk about the breaking news that happened not so long before we came on?
Yeah.
So as of this current recording, I'm sure there'll be more stories about it. There is a story that broke in The Athletic. I don't have a subscription to The Athletic, so I don't have the full article.
I've actually blocked them on Twitter because I'm sick of all their advertising.
But some lovely people on Twitter often post different bits of it and paste them up and whatever. But basically, the FA are investigating an Arsenal yellow card amid suspicious betting patterns. So The Athletic reported it. Some bookmakers alerted the FA to unusual betting patterns after the match. They haven't said what the match is, but people have essentially worked it out and looked at there's betting aggregation statistic websites or whatever. You can check all this stuff. And it appears to be the Leeds game. And again, this is all none of this is 100% or exactly what it is they're investigating. This is just what people have worked out so far. It looks like it's Xhaka's yellow card it's the 86th minute when we beat Leeds.
For time wasting, yeah?
Yeah, for time wasting. It's very weird. I watched a video of it again today after all the story came out, and we're 4-1 up. Leeds have got no hope in the game whatsoever. We were in cruise control, basically. He does take a very, very long time to take the free kick, and the referee books him. Xhaka getting booked is not a weird thing. I mean, everyone knows that.
Anything would be weirder to bet against it, wouldn't it?
Yeah. It's the fact that it was, I think the way, and again, I'm not 100% on this, but I think it's the way in which the bets were made. I don't know if it was for a specific time to get a booking or within like a specific window. There was also a very interesting thing in the article from The Athletic that said, at this time, the referee is not being investigated. That little sentence was then immediately removed from the article, and they reposted the article without a sentence in it. So there's no actually accusations or investigations into match fixing or anything like that. Whether it's actually Xhaka who's going to be investigated or not, who knows? There's lots of rumours swirling around on Twitter. Some, people saying, "Oh, I know Xhaka's mate who always says to bet on this bit of the game or whatever." He probably talks to his dead grandmother and asks her for lottery numbers as well. Who have this Twitter on Twitter, but it's very. It's just very Arsenal, isn't it? You get all this like media firestorm against us for postponing a game. It slowly starts to calm down a little bit. And then, bang, just when you think, okay, we're just going to concentrate on the Liverpool game, the second leg, and maybe getting to a final, this story breaks. I don't know. What do you make of it all, James?
I don't know. I mean, with certain players, it doesn't rain, it pours, doesn't it? I mean, I've seen the video the same as you have, and it's one of those where if you watch it knowing that there's been accusations, then it's human nature to try and, see something untoward going on. Whereas I think if you were to watch that video without any of this context and just watch it as a yellow card, I don't think anyone would ever look at that and think, oh, he's up to no good there, or something peculiar going on, because there isn't. For his sake, I hope it's all nonsense. And if it had been the vast majority of players throughout the Premier League, you would probably immediately just dismiss it as nonsense. But because it's Xhaka, because he is one of those Marmite players that has that ability to just do something astronomically fucking thick, that you wouldn't put it past him. I mean, he's capable of that as much as he is capable of being a very important player for Arsenal. So I look at it and I think that, when you see accusation, what really has he done? He's done nothing to affect the game. He's just, and assuming it is true, he's just tried to get himself booked within a window to try and make some people some money, which is, morally a bit off. And it's a bit not something a professional footballer should be doing, certainly. But at the same time, it's not like the most hell-worthy of trespasses. There are worse things people have done.
I think actual match fixing is like a few years banned from professional
a certain shithouse manager at Tottenham has got done for that, hasn't
he? Yes, he has. So again, no one knows if it's actually Xhaka who's being investigated or if it's the referee.
Also, it's not actually been a direct accusation at Xhaka. I didn't know.
No, it's not. It's not direct at him, but the fact it was the yellow card and just the way the betting pattern happened, it was his yellow card. At least he's
stained with a brush of instantly guilty.
Yeah.
But it's not as if he's not. I've got a little stat up here from Squawker Football that says Xhaka, since the start of 16-17 season, Xhaka has received more cards, 50, than any other Premier League player. 171 Premier League games, 46 yellow, 4 red. Now it's not.
Did you guys see the one that someone posted about how it went something like in 5 years at Arsenal, he's posted 19 apologies on Twitter?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's true or not, but it just sounds so ridiculous. And I love Granit Xhaka. It sounds completely believable.
He is one of those players where you don't for a second doubt that's true, do you?
Yeah.
But it's not like it's Alan Smith, where he got one booking in his entire career, where all of a sudden he's now got another one. Granit gets so that's 50. So he's getting a card one way or another every 3 games, every 3 and a bit games.
Yeah.
So him getting another one then.
He is very much judged on previous reputation. You can see it a mile off.
The thing with with the sort of investigation so far,
I didn't know that about the guy at Lincoln.
Yeah. I think that was in a cup. That might have been in. Was it the FA Cup maybe, or one of the lower league cups? I think it was. I saw that.
Perhaps I'm wrong. Then perhaps it is the kind of thing the authorities will take very seriously.
Oh, I mean, they will. Yeah,
career over, isn't it?
Again, so this is all speculation. If Xhaka was in any way involved or something like that, then he would be immediately banned.
I mean, that's why Daniel Sturridge had to leave football, didn't he? He had to leave Premier League football because he got an 18-month sentence, and it was suspended down to about 8 months, and then he went off to Turkey and got in trouble for something else again. Last I heard, he was playing in Australia.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you're not even, as a player, you're not even allowed to bet on the game you're in the sense of like winning or losing.
Or not even allowed to bet on other games, are you?
I don't even think, I'm not sure if you can. You might be able to bet on other games from other leagues, possibly. I'm not sure if you can bet on games in your same league. There's obviously a lot of rules about that because there was so much match fixing going on. This obviously isn't match fixing, it's something different. But obviously it's been investigated because the pattern of betting was so specific that, and bookies track this constantly all the time, so they will know. Obviously there's a lot of match fixing comes out of China with like Eastern European leagues and Asian leagues and stuff like that, and all that sort of odds and stuff is all tracked very carefully.
Yeah, John, is the answer to your question. It says no participant can bet on a match or competition in which they are involved that season or which they can influence, or any other football-related matter concerning the league that they play in. Yeah. Participants are also prohibited from using or passing inside information.
Yeah, because I think Sturridge's one was, I don't think he was betting on his specific games he was in, but I think he was betting on other teams within the league. Which is why I think his sentence got reduced down, because it wasn't something he was directly affecting, if you like, but it was still against the rules. So it is a very serious investigation. It will be interesting to see whether the FA come out and say if they are investigating a specific player. And then if they do say that, what Arsenal will say, because obviously Arsenal haven't commented yet, at least as of this recording.
So for all intents and purposes, it could be a Leeds player, it could be the ref.
I mean, I guess so, yeah, because that video, obviously, if people want to go and watch it, I'm sure if you search Xhaka online, it will come up now on Twitter. Like James said, if you didn't know anything about it, you would just think, oh, it's like 5 minutes to go in the game, Arsenal 4-1 up, he's just trying to run the clock down because it doesn't really matter at this point, and the ref pulls a yellow. But if you see some of the tackles he made previously in the game, the fact he didn't get booked was a little bit surprising. Again, that's not me trying to defend Xhaka and say it's the referee. I can't even remember who the ref was for the game. I don't want to accuse anyone of anything. But the betting is certainly suspicious. So we just have to wait and see what comes out with the FA. This is not a new thing in football. Obviously, I watch loads of Italian football, and Juve got stripped of titles, and and they got shut down the leagues.
Corrupt over there, though.
Yeah, I mean they were fixing to the point of they were picking, what referees would ref certain games.
100 SIM cards.
Yeah, it's very, very, very dodgy things going on there. But it's something that happens in every league. Sadly, if you're Granit Xhaka,
just go steaming into a tackle and you get a yellow card.
Yeah,
I mean, there's the likelihood of getting a yellow card there is dependent on the referee. I think that's equally just because of the scoreline and the time, people would have just let that go.
Yeah.
It's not like they were 1-0 up against a team pressing for an equaliser, in which case it's valid. But
it's a very weird situation. And I mean, like you said, I hope that Xhaka hasn't done anything illegal and he's not involved, because for his sake, at least, if he's done nothing wrong, again, it's another thing to add on the whole
There's two things that don't often go in the same sentence together: Xhaka and not doing anything wrong.
Yeah. It's just another stick to beat him with for a lot of. And I get that a lot of Arsenal fans don't like him and they want him to be gone. And I agree, we could get a better midfielder, and I hope we do get someone.
He's one of those where I actually like him. I think he's a good player. He's just like David Luiz was to an extent. He's just got the dickhead switch.
Yeah.
You take that out of his game, he's a really good player.
Yeah. And there's a reason why every manager who's been at Arsenal since he's been there picks him every week and plays him every week.
I heard a couple of ananalogies about Xhaka that I thought were really apt. One, it might have been on Arsblog where they said this, that he was like a postman where he delivers your post perfectly for a month. Just one day throws a brick through your window.
Yeah, it's true. It is true.
The other one I heard is like he's a dog. He's well trained, but every now and then he's going to shit in the front room.
Yeah,
and there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah,
and you either get rid of him or you accept the fact that he will shit in your front room every now and then.
Yeah, he's.
I tell you what, he's like Jock. Every now and then, Jock will go into a cafe, take a shit, and it'll get closed down. There's nothing you can do about him.
You upset him now.
Which, if you don't know, John, he's actually done that before. That's a true story.
Oh dear, I had so much respect for Jock, and yeah, I think it's gone up a notch now. That's quite impressive. It's a very weird situation, but yeah, it just never ends if you're an Arsenal fan. Just bizarre.
It's odd. Like Phil Mack has put there. I remember that now and thought it was odd, but what I thought was odd was the ref getting the card out rather than simply waving his arm to get Xhaka on with it. Yeah, because you think, well, 86th minute, we're 4-1 up. And Xhaka's told someone to make a run. He's made the run and he's still waiting. You go, "Hey, Xhaka, will you come on? We all got to get the bus home."
Yeah, it is a weird one, which the fact that the Athletic took the bit from the article, again, I don't want to start conspiracy theories, it's the ref or whatever. No one knows. There's no official statement. And
I'll tell you what, if you're a ref and you need someone to book in and around the 84th minute, Granit Xhaka is your man.
I mean, he's a very easy target. Yeah, that's true. I mean, you could just you could just say something to him and he would say something back, wouldn't he? And all the referee's got to do is say, "Oh, Xhaka called me a cunt." Everyone would just believe you. He could have just said, "Sorry, ref, I didn't hear you."
That's what Gabriel got booked for, wasn't it? Gobbing off to the referee, apparently.
Yeah. It's weird, but we'll see what happens. I'm sure if anyone is subscribed to The Athletic, I'm sure you can read the whole article, but there's probably people who've posted the whole thing on Twitter, so it will go into a bit more detail. But I'm sure they're not going to, give up their sources or whatever or name anyone yet.
If you subscribe to The Athletic, no doubt you can listen or read scintillating articles about Mikel Arteta's choice of sock and how it affects the pitch.
Should we talk a little bit about transfers? We've got a couple of little bits of Arsenal transfer news. We've got this one, which will make everybody sad. Captain Corporal Jenkinson gone to Melbourne. He's
that
gone
will
on
make Dom very happy, though, won't it?
Oh, is Dom in Melbourne?
I don't know if he's in. I'm not sure if he's in Melbourne, but he's in Australia.
He's in Adelaide.
It's not that big, Australia, is it? I'm sure it's just 10 minutes down the road.
If that. So he's gone on loan from Nottingham Forest. I think in the 3.5 seasons he's been at Forest, he's played about 10 league games. Lots of injury, fallen out with some of the managers. And then the other bit of news, John, the final Bundesliga bastards fucked off. Kolasinac, a player who we both really rated from his time in Germany. Tell people a little bit about how good he was in Germany and why it didn't work. That position coming to play for Wenger, who didn't use wing backs.
I mean, yeah, because he didn't use wing backs, basically. He was just a monster running forward. He was I forgot what country he's from now. Was he Serbian? I don't want to offend him.
Bosnian, isn't he?
Bosnian, that's it. Yeah.
No one say it's all the same thing, for fuck's sake.
I've definitely offended him now because I've called him a Serbian. He's like the Bosnian bomber. He's the Bosnian version of Hulk. Don't say bomber and Bosnian. Fucking hell. I've done it again.
There's going to be something coming through your window any second.
Yeah. I'm not calling him a war criminal. He was just a wing back. Again. He was just a very good forward-thinking wing back. And in Germany, at the time anyway. I haven't watched the Bundesliga for a while now, but it was very, very quick league and pushing forward and getting width and dragging teams out of position. And he had a really good season before he came to Arsenal. And to be fair, when he first came to Arsenal, I actually thought he did all right initially when he came in. But, you know, he just sort of faded and you saw flaws in his game in that his positioning wasn't the best and defensively he wasn't sound, which is a ridiculous statement to make about a defender, but it's kind of the way modern fullbacks are now, a lot of the time anyway. And just for whatever reason didn't work out. Managers changed, you know, and he's sort of the last remnants of that Ozil clique and the stupid money that we were paying certain players when we got them. But at the time when we signed him, I was excited. I'm glad to see. Yeah, I'm glad to see the back of him now. Not like no hard feelings for him. I don't think he did anything wrong necessarily whilst he was at Arsenal. We just didn't perform to the level that I wanted him to. I don't think he was ever like, I don't know how much of a disruption or whatever, or a bad influence he was on the training ground. I assume he can't have been that bad because he's the last one to go.
For all intents and purposes, I think he was pretty much a solid trainer and he was never a bad influence. I think it was more those he associated with. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I would assume that just from the fact he's the last to go, that Arteta was quite happy to have him in the squad and training with the younger players and stuff still, and obviously still used him a little bit this season. So yeah, from that point of view, good luck to him, and hope he has a successful rest of his career. Just didn't work out for an Arsenal. There's been plenty of players like that.
It's just, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I was the same when we signed him. I knew a little bit about him without actually knowing extensive amounts about him, but his initial first 4 or 5 months, I thought he looked like he was a really decent fullback. Maybe a little tiny bit suspect defensively, but no more so than, with the exception of Monreal, many we've had in that position over the years. But like you said, it's just one of those players that, for whatever reason, didn't work out for him.
Yeah.
I didn't realise how many played so many games. His first 2 seasons, he played 36 on each, mostly subs, I'd have thought. Then played 32, 9 last season, and 5 this season. So 118 games, 5 goals, but all 5 goals were scored in his first season.
I mean, my favourite memory of him, though, still as an Arsenal player, is, you know, running out to defend Ozil when he was getting mugged, and just the guys had the, I don't know, what was it, knife or a bat or whatever, and he just went, oh, fuck this. And I just went, oh, you're quite scary, large man. I'll get on my moped and drive away now. That will always crack me up. So, yeah. Good luck to him, and hopefully, you know, if he accidentally 2-foots Guendouzi in training, that would be a shame, wouldn't it?
Somewhere out there in the darkness, Chris Carpenter has just exploded into a hailstorm of tears.
I think Chris actually owns a Marseille top anyway. I'm going to use my usual and go and
if he's got Guendouzi on the back of it, you should ban him from the podcast indefinitely.
That's terrible. Yeah.
In fact, we should, you know, have some sort of intervention podcast where we send trained professionals round to his house to have a word with him.
Also, how can you be a FC Lorient fan and have a Marseille shirt? That's disgusting. Or an Arsenal fan and like Marseille in any way. Aren't Marseille the team that fucked Wenger over when he was at Monaco?
Yes.
I love Chris. I really do. If there's one thing he does that I always baffles me, is that he often slates the English football team, probably rightly, for having a bunch of arseholes in it, and then follows the French football team, which is equally, if not 10 times worse.
The French football team has the biggest arseholes in it, probably minus Kante, who is apparently the nicest footballer in the world.
You take Kante out of the equation, and it is Belen Central, the French national team.
Yeah,
some of them, like, if you needed a level of Belendery to aspire to, then look no further than, say, Hugo Lloris or Griezmann.
Oh, I hate Griezmann.
I can't stand him either.
Oh, got on the documentary about himself just for a contract. Oh, God, go away. Oh, see, look, Danny, you're making us racist by talking about this. This is terrible. I've insulted Serbians, Bosnians, and the French tonight.
I've just insulted someone from Plymouth. Well, I've said Plymouth. I've insulted him twice now.
I can no longer be racist because I'm part Egyptian. That's Africa covered. I'm 0.5% Native American. Say what I want. I can make the powwow sounds and all that kind of nonsense. I'm European. I'm everything. I'm there's no one I can't insult apart from
I'm just
Antipodeans.
Bristolian. That's all I am, 100%.
Aren't we all originally from Africa, Danny? I thought that was the thing.
Yeah.
Oh, xenophobic, not racist. See, I'm even using the wrong word now. I'm offending grammar Nazis at the same time. My use of the
Xenophobia
English
means you're
language.
afraid of foreigners.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm not afraid of foreigners.
We have breaking news from the Chris Carpenter, who, although he's not here, people, he still replies to your questions. I put, will Kola fit into the Marseille team and play? Here we go. The reply: he won't go right into the team as Marseille and Sampoli play a 3-3-3-1. That's 12, isn't it? No, 3-6-9. That's right. System. But in time, they will also play a 3-5-2 with wing backs, which will get Kola playing in time in the position he works best in at left wing back. Because I do know they play 3 at
In
back.
time.
Yeah. So I put, cheers, love.
I like the fact that he listed it as.
Can you tell him we said hello as well?
Yeah, he listed it as 3-3-3-1. Not, because normally you don't list the goalkeeper, but that's actually Marseille's formation for most games because they normally get at least one player sent off.
That sounds like an insane formation. 3-3-3-1.
I've put on there. You probably can't see. I've put James and John miss you too.
I don't lie.
Bless
to
his
him,
little
Danny.
pirate socks.
The only other transfer is Pablo Mari, isn't it, to Udinese? That's not official yet, but is it official now? Is it officially announced?
I don't know what you guys think, but I mean, we've had Kolasinac, Mari, Balogun, quite a few, 3 outgoings. You would think, I mean, it's what, the 19th today, when it leaves us with 12 days before the window closes. You would think that Arsenal are planning to do something more than just Artemela, or whatever the guy's name is. I mean, I was more optimistic last week than I am now, but I don't see we'll get Vlahovic now. Can't handle that. I can't imagine that, rather.
I mean, I don't think we need anything necessarily in terms of defenders. I think there's a possibility.
No, with Saliba coming back, we're pretty set there.
And then maybe a right back in the summer, like an understudy, maybe to Tomiyasu.
How about the Aubameyang stuff? The £8 million, was it 8 million to loan him or 8 million after the loan?
Obligation to buy.
Yeah, but they would pay his wages, I believe, like his full wages. I can't see. Well, I could see Arsenal accepting it if they want to get rid of him. Just because of
probably a massive payday for him at 32 as well, going over there.
Yeah,
they'll probably go above and beyond his 350 grand a week. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if he's, if he's struggling, especially to find his form, or he feels like he's on a downgrade as far as his performance level is going. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
If this was the summer and we got that offer, I think it'd definitely happen. It's whether or not they're going to be prepared. Because if they can't bring a striker in, then they need to hang on to him.
Yeah.
Because we can't go the rest of the season with just Lacazette and Nketiah. That would be suicidal.
Is Vlahovic coming, John? I mean, you've seen him play. I mean, he did the wave goodbye to everybody at the end of the
He is waiting, in my opinion, he's waiting for the summer to go to Juventus.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do the Arthur Mello, the Arthur, not Arthur. Arthur Mello one first.
Oh, Arthur.
I'm Arthur.
Yeah, I think that will get done. I don't think that'll be an issue. I think it's more Juventus trying to hold on to him as long as possible to see if they can get another player in on loan. I know they were looking at Bruno Guimaraes from Lyon and a few other players, but I can't see a problem. I'd imagine the Mello one might get completed over the weekend or early next week.
I just see that one as an absolute waste of time. I really do. Especially
I just think
now
for an extra body, it may be, I don't know, it gives
if you need
it's a few more options.
For 6 months, Wijnaldum's the better bet because he's Premier League proven.
I heard on a podcast that said that he's not going to go and move to France and settle in and then come back to the UK again and leave all of his family in France. That's especially now with the restrictions. You can't just come and go, and his family can't just come and go as you want.
Who are we talking about?
Wijnaldum.
Yeah, but I mean that they were talking about loan, and if it's 6 month loan, I think he's. I mean, if you're presented with the two options,
Yeah,
Martinelli
I'd take
Wijnaldum.
I'd take Wijnaldum. I think the issue with that would be how much of his wages we'd have to pay.
True.
Is the big thing, because I've got no idea what it is. He's on a PSG, but I assume it's a fuck ton of money because he went there on a free, didn't he? So
Emile, to me, strikes me as a Dennis Suarez sort of signing. Like, you've got no idea how he's going to acclimatise to the Premier League. And you would assume someone who's played the majority of their time in Spain and Italy will struggle.
Yeah.
As a lot of people do.
I do like the fact that they're looking at a loan option rather than a panic buy, though, in terms of midfield, because it means they obviously do have a clear target who they want to go for in the summer. And if you can't get him now, don't buy someone just for the sake of it. Try and find the right loan option. I think that's a good thing.
I think if they do anything big, it will be a striker. But the trouble with that is, I think it really depends on how hard Arsenal go for a striker. For me, really depends on how much distance there is with Aubameyang. Because if Aubameyang's burnt all his bridges, and there's worries about his fitness and his performance levels, then Arsenal have got to do something.
Yeah.
Geez, he's only on 165 grand a week.
Oh, is he only? Oh,
decent. Wow. 9th highest earner at PSG.
Wow.
On a 5-year deal.
Right, okay. Dusan Vlahovic. Oh, Vlahovic. I never know how to say it properly. It's really weird. So he's got a year left on his contract come the summer. I've seen lots of people saying, oh, he just wants to go to Juventus. Juventus are going to buy him, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, the best players in Serie A do tend to go to Juventus, Milan, or Inter at some point. Napoli sometimes gets them as well. Lazio might sneak one every now and again. Juventus love taking players from Fiorentina because it really pisses their fans off as well. And they hate each other. I don't think Juve will actually go for him, personally.
They've got some offloading to do first, haven't they?
Well, one, they've got offloading to do. Two, they're very interested in Martial. They really like Martial, and they would like to get him. Again, I don't work for Juventus, clearly. It's just from what I watch and the people I follow and stuff. I tend to follow a lot more. I tend to follow a lot more Serie A than I do Premier League, to be honest. They've got the big headache of trying to get Dybala to sign a contract still, because he's out of contract in the summer, which is amazing to think that he could just walk away for nothing.
And they paid 32 million for him from Palermo, my team, my other team.
So the thing with Vlahovic that gives me any sense of confidence is we are the only team this window pushing for him. Fiorentina are desperate to sell him now because they'll know they get the maximum amount of money for him this window. The guy who owns the club, there was a really good article the other day. It's fucking nuts. The stuff that he's gone through.
That's something else I heard on Arsblog about that as well.
Yeah, they are pushing big time to get the sale done. So I don't think Arsenal, as far as I'm aware, Arsenal haven't officially made an offer, but they've basically had the conversation of we're willing to pay this much, and Fiorentina have basically said yes, like we're happy to accept. The issue is the agent. That's the big hurdle for it.
It's not to an extent the player, because you have heard a lot of talk where he's not entirely sold on it and he wants to hold out for a Champions League club.
For everything I've read, and again, this is Italian journalist, not British journalist, so it's who you believe, basically. From the people I've read, who I follow, who tend to I don't get everything right because not every journalist can, but they tend to know people in the right places. He's open to the move. He knows that he's going to be leaving Fiorentina, whether it's this window or the summer, more than likely. And he likes the project, and he likes the fact it's a young team. It's the Premier League, which is like best league in the world, whether you want to agree with that or not. But that's the way it's sort of seen in football still.
I absolutely agree with that.
And the money obviously will be better than what he's on. The stories about him wanting 300 grand a week or whatever, that is complete fucking nonsense. I wouldn't believe a word of that. You could probably sign him and you could get him to sign for 100, 150 grand. Still absurd amount of money, but in Premier League terms, it's not a lot. The issue is the agent wants a big, signing fee, big chunk of commission, certain amount of money paid for him. There's talks that he wanted something like 20 million or something, the agent. because he knows
all over again.
Yeah, he knows this is his big payday. So, from what I've read, and again, believe this what you will. I don't know whether this is true or not. The Fiorentina are pushing Vlahovic as much as possible to say, look, this deal's on the table. This is a really good move for you. This is good for the club. You'll be helping the club at the same time. He's got he's well respected around the club and likes Fiorentina, and obviously would like to help them. And it's more his agent saying, oh, hang on a bit, maybe you could get a Champions League club, or you don't know exactly where else I'm going to finish this season, or maybe you can get a bigger team coming for you. Maybe Inter are going to come in for you in the summer, and, because Lukaku's left there already, and there's stories that Lautaro Martinez might go, and all this sorts of thing. So it's his agent that looks like to be the one that's blocking it. So basically it's down to Edu and whether he can either speak to the player directly or speak more to Fiorentina and get them to push from their side. Or he can talk the agent down in terms of the fee he wants. The issue I would have with the deal is if we got it done and he has the same agent, we're still going to have to deal with that fucking agent in X number of years' times, which would be an absolute ball ache.
Just makes me wonder why players don't go, fuck off. I'm not having you're not having 20 million of my money.
He's been his agent since he was a kid, though. And I mean, I say since he was a kid, he is a kid still, essentially, really, in football terms. He's still very young. So you're going to listen to him. You're going to, you're going to listen to those sort of things. In terms of the player himself, I'm sure people have watched videos of him to death now. Basically, the easiest way to describe him is slightly leaner, but just a strong Giroud who can run. Would be a pretty apt description.
I mean, if he's that
gifted,
then he'd be a bloody good player for us.
Oh yeah. He's deceptively quick. He's quicker than he looks. He's got great feet, really good technical ability. He did look a dickhead the other night because he tried to do a Panenka penalty and fucked it up. But they won the game anyway, so it was okay. And he apologised to all his teammates afterwards. But yeah, he's a very good finisher. Could take free kicks. He's good in the air. So I'm really hopeful. I'd like to sign him. The fee they're talking about, I'm worried about.
Look at that from our Nick. The agents from the Matrix are easier to work with.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Don't get me started on the fucking.
Oh god, yeah, Matrix. I don't want to start on that film either. Fuck's sake, that was.
If you've seen it, I mean, they cast. I'm spoilers here, but Jonathan Groff as basically a hybrid of Agent Smith, and it was just terrible.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Egypt have won, people, and Nigeria are winning 2-0. So Egypt are through to the next stage of the AFCON. So that's one more week that
the Egyptian Pirlo is away.
Yeah. Oh well, I was thinking the other one, the pyramid pennant.
Oh, pyramid pennant. Yeah.
I can say that I'm part Egyptian. I'm all about the pyramids.
I did say on Twitter that I was a little bit reluctant about Vlahovic just because of the fee being reported.
Thunder says about Vlahovic, Serbian Welbeck.
Not to roll back on that statement. I am still slightly reluctant because of the fee, but thinking about it now, the fact that we could sign a player who is that highly rated around Europe. And this is our one opportunity to get one up on every other club, basically, who may be looking for a striker.
Do you reckon there's somebody better we could get in the summer?
No. Well, Haaland. There's only two players better than him, and that's Mbappe and Haaland, as in young players that are up and coming.
Yeah, to fit the profile, the other one that's touted is it Isaac at Sociedad, I think?
Yeah.
Who played with Ødegaard. I know he's not having a great season this year, and I do worry about how the difference in physicality.
I think the thing with Vlahovic is that you think the fee they're quoting is the same fee, probably less even, than would have to fork out to get Calvert-Lewin or Ollie Watkins. And I think he's a much better shout than either of them do. Yeah.
I do like Calvert-Lewin and I like Ollie Watkins as well. I like both.
But you can't say those in the same breath as you can say Vlahovic, though, can you? Or Isaac. No,
I mean, the difference is that obviously those two, you already know they know the league and they're experienced in it. The difference is
if you're
have they got the level to go up?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said for Ollie Watkins. I reckon if he's one of those players that's just at the cusp of getting really good, then it's exactly the right kind of move for him. I think he's got a lot going for him, Ollie Watkins has.
Yeah, and he's very much Arteta's style as well.
Yeah.
You think he's a lot more... He's got a lot of physicality about him for a guy who... I always look at him and don't think he's that big. He looks slight to me. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't look like he's got a big frame or anything, but he seems to battle really well for the ball. When he presses, he's full of energy, which really fits the way we're playing at the moment, especially under Arteta. So yeah, I wouldn't be against going for one of those guys, but again, I don't. The realistic chance of getting one of them in January seems very slim, other than maybe Calvert-Lewin, but he's been out basically the whole season with injuries, isn't he? So you don't know what state he's going to come back in, and it's English premium on price. I do think the difference between, like, you can never say definitely getting top 4, but realistically getting top 4 and not getting it this season will be down to whether we can get a striker this window, though. Like, I love what Lacazette's done this season, and I think he's worked really hard, and he brings the best out of a lot of those young players who play around him. And he works.
I personally would keep him another year, Lacazette, if we could.
I'd give him another year as well, especially if Aubameyang does go, whether it's this window or the summer. I just think he's a good backup player to have, and he's clearly a good mentor, or the rest of the squad like him. But he works his arse off, but he doesn't score enough goals. And I think that will be the issue.
You put someone, as you said it, John, if he is a quick Giroud, and then he will score a fuckload in the Premier League.
The way we get into wide areas now, Tierney, Saka, can all cross. He can run through the middle and get onto those through balls and stuff, and he can set other people up as well. He's a good build-up player, so it will always take adjusting. You never know when a player leaves a league. Like, I was iffy on him before the start of this season because he'd had a really good year last year, but there's always that thing in Serie A where a striker can have a great season and then all of a sudden they sort of disappear and tail off a bit. Belotti was like the big up-and-coming one at Torino, and although he's been consistent in terms of goals, his performances generally have dipped, and that's why he never really got his big move. But there's a few other players in there. Jonathan David, not from Corn, the one from Lille. I think he's the other guy, the Canadian, who we
isn't the Nigerian guy whose name's escaped me as well that plays in France.
Osimhen
or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah. So there's a few names out there, and I think it will come down to the fact of I can see Arsenal pushing right till the end of the window to try and get the Vlahovic deal done, and then maybe they've already said, like, we're going for this like full burn January, and if we don't get it done, then we've got these targets in the summer, and we'll move for them then.
I think if they don't get it done, it harks back to what I said. I think for me, it depends on how much water under the bridge is repairable with Aubameyang.
Yeah.
Because if Aubameyang's out and done and dusted, his Arsenal career's over, and he's just completely alienated Arteta and the club, then we will have a massive problem over the next course of the season if we don't have a proper striker.
Yeah.
Because some of the teams are just going to get hip to the fact that we don't have a proper striker, and they're going to play against us accordingly. As you said, John, I love what Lacazette has done, but he doesn't score enough goals.
Yeah.
And you need your centre forward to score goals.
Definitely.
So if we don't get a striker, then we've really got to hope we can reintegrate an Aubameyang.
Yeah. That's really it on the transfer front. There's nothing else really going on, is there?
I think Danny's trying to transfer his mum out by all accounts as well.
No, I was just reading Phil Macker's question because I'm highlighting the questions to read later, and just making sure that it wasn't the usual nonsense from Phil. It's actually a half decent one.
Do you want to do the questions and then we'll wrap it up, as we've been on for an hour and a half. We don't want to bore people.
Yes.
I imagine that the majority of people watching this are just sort of enjoying every minute of it, or admiring,
furiously masturbating.
I think they're focusing on Danny's screen, if that's the case.
So I just put something here. 58 million plus Torreira is around 72 million. That's the magic number. Do you think that could have any influence in the deal?
I think the Torreira thing might actually work in our favour because he's quite well thought of there by all accounts.
Yeah, they do. They want to keep Torreira, so that would be.
If we say that we'll give you X amount and you can keep Torreira,
yeah,
that works in our favour, and it's another. They get a good price and a player they want.
Yeah, So again, it's like I said earlier. From everything I've read, Fiorentina are very happy to play ball. It's just the agent stumbling block.
Right, we've got a question from Twitter. We'll do that one first from Matt L. Roberts. Cheers, Matt, as always. He says, with plenty of players running down their contracts, who would you be looking at this summer as a target if we could pick one player each? Because I can't think of any.
Oh, you mean from all the players that are out of contract? This
Isn't Mbappe out of contract in the summer?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I thought one. Nabry, he's out of contract. Never coming.
Isn't Dybala, whatever the guy's name is at Juve? He's out. I've never seen this somewhere someone to put up like a starting 11 of players out of contract in the summer. And bloody hell.
Yeah, so just going on transfer markets value, Mbappe, who is probably already agreed his deal to Real Madrid, Pogba is out of contract, Dybala, Frank Kessie, Brozovic at Inter, although there was talk he's about to sign a new deal, Rudiger at Chelsea, Nicolas from Bayern Munich, Andreas Christensen from Chelsea, Ousmane Dembele at Barca, Belotti at Torino, Zakaria from Gladbach, Boubacar Kamara from Marseille, Matthias Ginter, James Tarkowski from Burnley. If we did ever need another centre back again, that would have been a good one. Lacazette, obviously, Lingard, Romagnoli, Jason Denayer. Who else is in here? Andrej Kramaric. Jesus Christ, he's 30 years old now. There's a lot of players. It's kind of ridiculous.
So if we all had to pick one from that list, I assume we're not counting Mbappe because that's never going to happen. Nor's Dybala.
Yeah. No. My pick immediately would be Frank Kessie.
That's the same one I was going to say.
He was my midfielder I wanted before we were linked with Partey, and then they were like Arsenal willing to pay because I just thought he'd never leave Atletico, or if he did, he'd go to a bigger club if there is such a thing. That would just be an absolute monster midfield with those two.
Yeah, I agree with that. Although I do like Gnabry, but Avon has said that he's got a 1-year option, I think. Yeah. But that Frank Kessie, he's very, very good. Imagine those two in midfield. It'd be much like the Vieira Petit days. Two monsters in there.
And he's only 25 as well, so like you're getting good years out of him. Yeah.
Right. Other questions. Ray, for you, James. Ray Anderson. What would you guys? Oh, it's for all of us. What would you guys do if Arsenal don't sign anyone this? Sorry, Ray. Don't sign anyone this January. I'd be a bit concerned.
What would I do?
We need someone. Yeah.
I mean, is he asking what I would think, or whether or not I would, shriek in horror? And
would you start licking your finger and putting it in the pies at work?
Yes.
Who pies?
What would I do if you... Again, like I said, it depends entirely what's going on behind the scenes for me. I think if they've got a plan, then the only position in which I think we really, really need someone is striker. Danny, are you emptying your hysterectomy bag by any chance?
What are you laughing at?
Never mind.
That was at my expense, I bet. I was moving my foot.
No, of course not. So what would I do if Arsenal didn't sign my name in January? I don't know I'd be that bothered. I think if we're going to sign someone, it's got to be a striker. But defensively, we're fine. Midfield, if we keep people fit, we've got Xhaka, Partey, Sambi, and El Nene. I think that's enough to see us through. I mean, I don't really think we need unless we can get someone who markedly improves us. I don't think we need a midfield signing. I think we need a striker. And if we can't get the one we want, then there's no point doing it for the sake of it. So if we don't sign anyone this January, I don't know. I'll be slightly disappointed, but not massively concerned.
John?
And I will do the can.
I agree. I'd rather that we went for the players who are our genuine targets than panic buy. It's
got to fit the mold, hasn't it? It's got to fit the process.
Yeah. So I like why that's why there's so many talks about loans for midfielders. It'd be frustrating because I do think a quality striker just pushes us that much closer to finishing top 4. And I think because of the way Lovely.
Leicester 2-1 with 23 minutes to go. No, 13 to go.
I don't think anyone realistically before the season started thought we were going to get top 4, but now the fact there is a real chance of it, it almost puts us a year ahead of maybe where everyone thought the team's development might be, which I don't think will be too much pressure because the Champions League revenue, the money it brings in, gives us more spending power again in the summer and also makes us much more attractive for players coming to the club. So, I'd love to see one because I think it just makes that push much better. But if the right player isn't there, then don't just panic and, buy a fucking, I don't know, who else is on this list? Hugo Lloris is out of contract in the summer. Don't buy Hugo Lloris. There you go. That was the name I saw on the list.
Phil Macker asks, who is our top goal scorer? Because I have the feeling we don't have one who is getting a decent return. So if we can buy to stop one in Jan, that's brilliant. Who is our top goal scorer?
I think it's Smith Rowe, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's Smith Rowe with a number of goals this season.
Is it 8? 8 or 9? Yeah.
Total goals is Smith on 9, Saka and Aubameyang on 7, Lacazette and Nketiah on 5, Ødegaard and Martinelli on 4.
Yeah.
So it's much better to have a team where you're scoring from everywhere rather than having one player who's banged in 40 a season.
I think that you put a player like that in this team, and that means it just makes us a much bigger threat, offensively, a much bigger threat.
Imagine
We've
you
got
chuck
a prolific
in
centre forward as well as the others that can contribute.
You chucked in again, these were like top level elite players, but like an Henry or a Van Persie or someone like that in that team, they'll get you 30 goals a season. But because they're that good, like James said, they make the others around them play even better and get as many, if not more, goals than they've already got. Which is why I'd love to see the signing happen this window. But again, it depends if it's the right guy.
Final question from the Femster, who will be joining me tomorrow night after we beat Liverpool.
Is that Femi Martinez?
Well, you can ask him. You're in the same WhatsApp group as him. Just listening to the names, John, your listing of the striker position, is there just a lack of strikers in world football? I can hardly pick a decent 2 of the FPL this season. Fami's obviously in our ABW. We have a private fantasy league, and he's actually banned from winning it because, quite frankly, John, he's a charlatan, isn't he? And a shyster with what his picks.
Does he pick Tottenham players? Is that what it is?
He certainly fucking does. Dead to us.
See, I do the FPL the way you're supposed to do it, which is you pick your team at the start of the season.
Yeah.
You forget it exists.
Yeah.
You ignore all the messages in the chat about the FPL when who's changing captain and everything this week, and you get to the end of the season, you go, "Well, I finished 4th. How did that happen?" And you've just not looked at it.
I do the same thing, but I just cut out the middleman and just didn't bother picking the team this year.
Well, that happens because the ABW team, I always pick ex-Arsenal players, most of which never get a game. And then Chris does one, and he loses. But it's usually Simon. I think
Simon is. Well,
Simon
there you go. That's because Simon's a professional journalist, and we're all just amateur radio people. I do tend to agree a little bit with Femi that there is a lack of... I don't know if it's a lack of strikers. I think we're at a weird period in football where the striking position is changing in a way that midfielders have changed over the years. It's not the traditional big man and that sort of thing. There's like these certain freak strikers who are like the top level, like Mbappe and Haaland and people like that, who are just like machines. But I don't think you get as many conventional strikers anymore. A lot more of the strikers now are people like Ollie Watkins, who they're a lot more technically gifted and almost to the point where you could say, oh, that seems like a guy who could maybe play as like an attacking midfielder, not necessarily in a creative sense, but in the way they run with the ball and can pass it and everything else. So I just think it's the fact that the striker position is changing. And it's the way defence is and the way teams play now as well, the way you play out from the back and goalkeepers and everything. I mean, it's just changed the dynamics in football. But it does seem to be like this cycle every couple of years where you seem to run out of like superstar, amazing centre midfielders or centre backs or strikers, and it seems to change positions every few years, and it just seems to be on a cycle. I'm sure there are probably some really good strikers out there just playing that just people aren't paying attention to because they're either at a team that's not necessarily fancied or they're in a league that someone doesn't watch particularly. I love Correa at Inter, who they'd signed from Lazio, I think. I think he's a really, really good striker. But most people look at him going, well, he hasn't, he didn't score many goals whilst he's been in Serie A. But I think he's a really good player who could probably thrive in the Premier League. He's just one of those names that's not fancied anymore.
True.
If you take the big names, like John said, if you take Haaland and Mbappe out of the equation, I'd struggle to think of 5, if that.
Well,
I would
the way
consider
forward is like Man City, isn't it? Not really relying on a striker. Scoring from everywhere.
You could argue that Arsenal, when they looked really, really good, you could argue that I think we looked our most dangerous offensively going back however many years it was when we didn't play Giroud, but we played Sanchez there. And he was that sort of hybrid coming off the left-hand side. Wasn't necessarily a striker, but he was such, just so, such endeavour and such, pace. And
will you even think back to under Wenger when Henry was sort of in his pomp?
He was
and
not
Henry
a striker,
says it himself. He's not a striker. He was never a striker. Even when he was scoring all those goals, he said, look at the position I took up on the pitch every single game. He said, look where I made my runs. He said, Bergkamp technically should have been our furthest forward player because he was a real 10. He said, I wasn't a striker. I was a winger. I was just a winger who got to not have to track back and got to play through the middle whenever I wanted and just go where I wanted. And really, that Wenger team basically played with, 6 midfielders, essentially, and not like an out-and-out striker unless like Wiltord or someone came on. So it's weird to think that the only sort of other traditional superstar striker I can think of is a really old one who still plays now, and I still think he's a really good player, is Benzema. Do you know what I mean? He like fits that sort of mould.
Maybe Jamie Vardy to an extent as well.
Yeah, Vardy is, and I'm not even going to mention that twat down, down the other.
No, I think he's a done deal. I think he's gone. I think he missed his chance in the summer, and he's going to regret it.
Yeah.
And so
the other one I would throw in there would be Lukaku, but he's not seemed quite the same since he's come back from his injury. I know Chris doesn't like him and thinks he's a fraud, but his goals, his goals and his record and all his medals say otherwise, Chris. But there you go.
He's one of those where if he's on firing on all cylinders, he is unplayable.
Yeah,
he has to be happy as well.
Yeah, it was a bit like Drogba in that sense. Drogba was another one who, when he was on fire, you just couldn't play against him. It didn't matter what you did or what defenders you had in front of him. He was
I think if Lukaku's on form playing well, it doesn't matter who he's playing against. He's going to tear him apart.
Yeah, but there aren't many out there anymore, so we have to go find the next one. Hopefully,
right. I think the closest internal solution we've got is Martinelli, because he reminds me of Sanchez the way he plays. I think if he develops the way we hope he's going to, he's going to be that kind of player.
Oh, we had a few like that. Masao Santi Cazorla in his first season with us on that left-hand side, banged in, 15 goals in that first season before he moved inside. Another one, and Sanchez and Henry.
If Martinelli bolts up a bit, I mean, even now he's still when he threw himself into Van Dijk and then sort of hurt himself, I thought it was quite funny in the first leg of the Liverpool game. But if he can bulk up a bit more, he's still very young. He could definitely be. He's the most analogous player we have to Sanchez. Definitely.
I think, John, all we've got to do now is gentlemen's nods, and then you can close your show, I think.
Yeah. I don't have a gentleman's nod because I'm not a gentleman. I do frequent gentlemen's clubs, though. I don't know why they're called that. There's never any gentlemen in there. James, would you like to give a nod to anyone?
Yeah, I think I'll give my nod to Mr. Carpenter this week because... And I do make fun of him. I do make fun of the French league, and I only do that to wind him up. But he is a very knowledgeable guy. And he's a very good dude. And on and off, I've been podcasting to him with the best part of 8-9 years now. I've always had a high opinion of him. So I thought, instead of making fun of him, I'll say something nice today.
Wow, look at that little heartfelt message. Danny, do you have a gentleman's nod?
James, you were on ABW podcast number 4 and number 10 and 13 and 50. Then the next one was 372. Where were you for 322 shows?
Oh, we were doing our own show, weren't we?
That's it.
But
Yeah,
unfortunately for that, then, the elements in the universe conspired against us.
If you go to bergkampwonderland.co.uk, there is a list of every podcast that everyone's been on with the numbers. I'm obviously top, and then it's Chris, and then it's Jeff, and then John, and then Josh.
I was going to say, Josh must have overtaken me.
Josh has just overtaken you, and and Carl's catching you. But there's
Danny, I asked you a question. You're fucking useless. This is why I would never have Danny as a guest if I was actually in charge.
I'd say,
ironically, we used to have him as a guest all the time.
I know, it's lovely. Go and have a listen to the Gooners podcast. Mr. Davies, the man who would kill me if he ever saw me. Go and listen into he was a guest on the Gooners podcast a couple of nights ago with Mike and Owen and Jared. And he sings a little song at the beginning of the podcast about a certain person who's now doing Bird. And it's very funny. He's actually on form, and he was speaking rather than Yakida doing that. He's actually talking towards the microphone. I thought, fuck me, we've been trying to get him to do that for 7 years, and he's finally figured out. I have
no idea who you're talking about. I know who the song's about, but
Jason used to be on here before.
He
tried to have me assassinated. He got John Wick to come round.
He was only going to let your tyres down.
So go and have a listen to that. The beginning of that is brilliant. The Gooners podcast is very funny. You got any, John?
No, I just hate people. My shout out is to everyone who gave the new Matrix film a bad rating. My shout out is also to the people who made Spider-Man. Well done. You didn't fuck it up. You did very well. I'm impressed. Congratulations. This nerd applauds.
It got massive nerd applause from me, and I was in the cinema on my own when I saw it the first time.
Yeah, it was very good. I got a little bit emotional, not going to lie. And
I cannot tell you how angry I was at the fucking Matrix sequel. I mean, Jesus Christ. I have not seen, I will say this now just because we're coming to the tail end of the podcast and I feel I can go a bit of rant, but I challenge anyone listening to this out there in the world to come up with a worse character reintroduction than they did with the Merovingian, because that was unbelievably awful.
Yeah, and for younger people who maybe weren't around or weren't quite old enough at the time when the Matrix came out, I'm going to guess James is similar age or maybe a few years younger, I don't know, than myself. I saw the Matrix in the cinema. I'm
probably older.
When I was, you'd be surprised, mate. I was 15, 16, what was it, 99, 2000? 99, something like that. So I was like 14, 15 maybe when it came out. And there wasn't like proper spoilers out then. So I go, there was this trailer and it was like, to see the Matrix or to understand it, you have to see it to believe it. And that was it. And it was like, oh, this is cool.
I was 21 when it came out.
Oh, okay. Wow. You look much younger than me.
I was 28.
I was very excited. I went to cinema with my friend and we left with Rage Against the Machine blaring, who was one of our favourite bands at the time. And we walked out the cinema and I've never been that aroused as a teenager in my life. And just my mind completely blown. The only thing I could possibly equate it to is like what people must have been like when they walked out the cinemas for the very first Star Wars film in the 70s. And it's just this perfect moment of my childhood. I was like, oh, they're coming back to it. And it's like the original cast and everything. And I saw a little bit of the trailer. And I was like, that looks worrying. I was like, no, I'm not going to judge. I'm going to sit down and watch it. I have never been so disappointed in my life. I wouldn't hit a woman, but I would hit both the Wachowski sisters hard in the face, even though only one of them was involved.
I think a DNA test might argue with you there.
Yeah. I can understand that. I mean, the first film is pretty much flawless. The second, for all its faults, has a lot of really good stuff in it.
Yeah.
The third is crap. The third is positively fucking inspired, but compared to the fourth. The fourth it's just...
Yeah,
I was physically irritated by it the whole way through. I'm sitting, I think, oh no, they're not doing this. The worst thing about it is there's a little period somewhere where you get a scene between Neo and Trinity where you think, this is actually pretty cool. It's actually quite nice. The two of them, Carrie-Anne Moss and Keanu Reeves, together on screen is about the only thing that saves it from being a complete clusterfuck. But other than that, you take two of your most iconic characters from the first film, and you recast them terribly.
Yeah, and the fighting's garbage. Like the whole thing about the first film was so cool was because they were actually punching each other, and every punch is pulled, and they're not getting hit. It's just go and watch. Like, don't waste your time. Go and watch some old John Carpenter films like The Thing or Big Trouble in Little China. Just like miles better.
See, we could do a podcast on why Big Trouble in Little China is one of the smartest films you will watch. It's so clever.
It's amazing. It's so good.
I think
it's one of those ones where I think what a lot of people don't realize is so clever and good about it is it subverts the American hero. Kurt Russell is not the hero.
He's a fucking moron in it. It's brilliant. It's so good.
I think our Nick sums it up perfectly. He says, I pirated it and I still want my money back on that rubbish. I've got it totally and I've not watched it. I got it about a month ago.
Danny, did you just say you've never seen Big Trouble in Little China?
I don't remember seeing it. I thought 126 films I watched last year.
I think you should watch it just because you're missing out.
I did watch Memento, though, with Carrie-Anne Moss in it. That was very good.
Yeah,
and then I watched Anna came over the other night and we watched Nobody again. Magnificent film.
I keep meaning to watch that. I haven't seen that yet.
What you also, I will recommend as well, and I'll probably put this on Twitter. Now this is just turned into a film podcast. If you haven't seen it already, is Pig with Nicolas Cage. It's fantastic. It's a really good film.
There's a decent film. Every now and then I like watching lower budget films that sneak up on you that are really good. There's one on Netflix called Upgrade, which is really good.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've still watched that. That's good. But Pig in particular, if you have not watched it, if you're a Nicolas Cage fan, you'll enjoy it anyway because he's in it. But it's funny because it's what I imagine, Stokes, if your life doesn't quite go the path you want it to, Nicolas Cage's character is going to be you in a few years, in 20, 30 years' time in the film. And I'm trying to work out which one of the other characters is Jock. And it's quite fun whilst I was watching it. And I was like, Imagine John, the best way to describe it is John Wick, but it's chefs and there's no guns.
Oh, that sounds about right then. Incidentally, the film characters, a lot of people always associate with me and Jock are Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern in Home Alone.
Oddly, yes.
Yeah.
Not the remake.
No, not the remake. Jesus.
Pig's
Escape from New York's another really good John Carpenter film. Not Escape from LA, which is pants though.
No, that's very bad. But yeah, John Carpenter made some great films. Anyway,
I saw on Precinct 13 as well.
Yes, very good. We could talk about John Carpenter all night. Right, we're going to wrap it up now. If you want a random impromptu movie podcast, maybe we'll do that one night. If there is a week without any Arsenal news,
hey, I'd be game for that.
And pudding.
Hopefully will happen at some point.
Films and puddings. We want to talk about films whilst eating puddings.
Me and Jock just talk about films and strudels, or better still, puddings in films.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Pudding, our favourite puddings,
like strudel in Inglourious Bastards, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
pear crumble. Right, go on, John. End the show.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up now. So obviously tomorrow we're going to have the post-game thing. Danny and Femi. Is it? Femi, and maybe one more.
Yeah.
Are you doing a pre-game one, Danny? Or
I will be, but so far I haven't got anybody for that. I'm not.
Okay,
I've got a few I can ask.
Tomorrow it will be Danny and the creepy picture behind him of his child doing the pre-game. It just leaves me to say, James, thank you very much for coming on.
You're welcome, as always. Pleasure.
Danny, thank you for being, conscious for some of it and actually paying attention and not being on your phone the whole time.
Well, thank you very much for hosting, John. It's always nice not to have to do it myself because I don't like it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wasn't really hosting, was I? I was just talking bollocks. But yeah, we've been at Bergkamp Wonderland. Hopefully we get the win tomorrow, get away to the final, and hopefully Burnley don't cancel the game at the weekend. But we'll just see. And Danny and Femi will see you tomorrow. Good night.
Adios.